Okay, dudes and dudettes, this is Sugi JRPG, and today, of course, we are gonna be talking about that brand new hot trailer of Final Fantasy XVI, which literally came out like an hour ago. And I did a video, maybe 2-3 years ago, called Final Fantasy XVI Wishlist. And a lot of those things that I probably wanted to see didn't come into fruition, at least based on this trailer. But I did indeed predict that it would be fantasy based. I didn't really believe after 13 trilogy, 15, and Final Fantasy VII Remake that they would do anything cyberpunk, futuristic, or sci-fi in general. So they decided to go back into their fantasy roots. And before I start my analysis and critique, I want to say a few things. First of all, I'm excited for the game. Secondly, I'm gonna be buying it. And thirdly, I'm expecting that I will be enjoying it pretty much as well. But I'm gonna be still offering some critique about artistic decisions that they did regarding this game based on the trailer that we have seen so far. And I really want to address those points because it's really important to me as a long-time Final Fantasy fan. So let's start with the kind of the obvious things what we saw from the gameplay. The combat looks pretty great. It seems to be more akin to Final Fantasy XV and Kingdom Hearts 3 than it does Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example. So action combat, I don't know if you're going to get to choose and play with other characters though. We only kind of like seeing one party member involved in here, so that remains to be seen. The graphics, obviously, PS5, looking pretty impressive, even though it's a PC demo. I still think it's going to be looking great, and there's nothing to really complain about the models, or especially the magic special effects that we saw. But I do have a couple of points I really want to address. One is that if you take all the summons and the chocobos out from the trailer, nobody would be able to tell me that this is a Final Fantasy game. I mean, it feels like this sort of a combination of Devil May Cry, Dark Souls, and Game of Thrones. Okay, like, and like, here's the thing. The world itself looks very grounded and realistic outside from the summons and the magic. And that's where my problem is. I was complaining about 15 too much for looking too modern and just not really feeling like a fantasy game. Yes, they had certain like places and level designs which looked like very high fantasy, but this doesn't seem to me, based on what we have seen so far in the trailer, to be anything regarding high fantasy. It looks very medieval, and the world didn't seem like very special. It seemed like way too normal. And for my if this wasn't called Final Fantasy, I would be very excited. But usually, when I play a Final Fantasy game, I really like the immersion, and that comes from level design and character design. And to me, we obviously didn't see that much about the actual level itself. I mean, the world map or anything like that. But from the get-go, it just seems way too generic for me that it could be from any other, fantasy RPG game akin to Dark Souls or any feudal fantasy game, basically. And also, the main character felt to me more like the main character for Final Fantasy XIV that is in the covers, and also too much like Noctis. I don't like this realism. I like that there are different races inside the game. Ronzos, your black mages, what else do we... I mean, there's so many races that have been created over the time, in many of our favorite Final Fantasy games, and I love those Ronzos, whatever they are. And I felt like it seems like there's nothing except humans. And to me, that premise is quite boring, to be honest. I'm not going to lie about it. I mean, you have your monsters, but the monsters, how much story they have, do they have even dialogue whatsoever? And it seems to be revolving around a bit of the summons and people transforming into summons, which kind of reminds me a bit of also Attack on Titan. So I got a bit of those feels from that. I don't know if that's just the one character that is transforming, but obviously, it's just the one trailer that we have seen so far. It's 4 minutes, quite long, so there's a mix of gameplay and action. There seems to be a lot of blood too, so this is way darker jump from 15, which I didn't expect, because I thought that the Nomura, or whatever his name, that was part of or is it Tabata? I don't remember the name of the director of 15, but I thought him gone, it would be less like mature type of a game. But I really wanted to go back to, this sort of 90s JRPG style or early 2000s. I really hope that we're gonna see that. I don't mind realism, but you already had like Final Fantasy VII, like being pretty realistic in a lot of ideas, and I don't think every game has to look like that. I don't think everything has to be realism. I think, if anything, but now, world needs more immersive games, something that don't really feel like relevant to their modern lives. I don't think what people require escapism now more than ever, with the whole internet culture and everything going around. So I think I don't like that direction. But this is the whole gaming industry, not just Final Fantasy what is doing this. But yeah, I'm a bit disappointed at that. But I mean, from other perspectives, like if we put all aside the things that I just talked about, it looks pretty great. The story, too much to speculate on, but it definitely seems to be a lot more constructed, and I don't think it will be the same mess as 15's story or 13. I think the story will be probably one of the better things. Hopefully people won't come back to this video and think like, oh, what was this guy saying? But I'm very excited, and if people want to see more of these types of videos about this game, 16, my thoughts, well, I do more of them. But I will not blab any longer. Subscribe, that's how to support me. Comment below. What did you think? Why are you disagreeing with me, and why are you disagreeing? Where are you agreeing with me, and why? I want to know those. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a dialogue about this. But I'm very excited still. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next video. Cheers.